Wow, this is a beautiful crowd. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Barbara Bono, and together with my fellow UB co-directors, Professors Carrie Brayman, Maria Horn, Stacy Hubbard, we would like to welcome you to the Folger Shakespeare Library workshop on Gilding the Gilt, the Gilded Age, craft production, and the construction of cultural capital. So I'm going to say a few things about the workshop in general before we get to our wonderful keynoter today. In 1901, at the time of the Pan American Exposition, Buffalo was the 8th largest city in the United States, but had the highest proportion of millionaires in the country. This Gilded Age wealth was the product of trade and rapid industrialization. In 1825, the completion of the Erie Canal had opened a water route to the west, and waves of immigrants passed through here, even while the resources of the American interior poured into our port. This wealth created an appetite for cultural acquisition. European art, music, and literature were massively imported, while homegrown initiatives like the Roycroft campus in nearby East Aurora imitated the anachronistic countertrend of the arts and crafts movement in England. Among the prizes of this period were the acquisition at the hands of wealthy book collectors of not one, but two sets of all 4 17th century Shakespeare folios, which were in turn gifted to the public library and the University at Buffalo, and formed the basis for their extensive collections of both early rare books and beautiful arts and crafts editions. These 2 book collections, which were gathered during the same period as when Henry Clay Folger acquired his many copies of the Shakespeare First Folio and built the Folger Shakespeare Library in Washington, D.C. as a monument to Shakespeare in America, will be the subject of the workshop's detailed bibliographic investigation over the course of the next few days. Today, we welcome you to the introduction to these 3 days, 2 keynote addresses. The first one now, setting the stage, creating a fictional narrative of Buffalo in 1901, will be delivered by one of this city's favorite daughters, novelist Lauren Belfer, author of City of Light. Copies of Lauren's many novels also remain available out in the auditorium lobby, and we will try to save some time near the end of her presentation for questions collected from the audience. The second keynote, and you can see it highlighted on the poster outside, right here at 7 o'clock this evening, will be a conversation about 3 versions of Shakespeare's in America among scholars Joyce Green McDonald of the University of Kentucky, Catherine Vomero Santos of Trinity University, and another native son, Scott Manning Stevens, an Akwesasne Mohawk who now directs the Native American and Indigenous Studies program at Syracuse University. For as the key map images for our workshop imply, before Northern European settlers came to this territory and the architects of the Pan American Exposition capped Joseph Ellicott's radial layout and Henry Law Olmsted's park system for this city, other peoples were already here, and they have since welcomed Shakespeare to America as well. It is especially important then that we begin the work of this place-based gathering with an acknowledgement that the land on which we sit is the territory of the Seneca Nation, a member of the Haudenosaunee Six Nations Confederacy. This territory is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Treaty of Peace and Friendship, a pledge to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. It is also covered by the 1794 Treaty of Canandaigua between the United States government and the Six Nations Confederacy, which further affirmed Haudenosaunee land rights and sovereignty in the state of New York. Today, this region is still the home to the Haudenosaunee people, and we're grateful for this opportunity to live, work, and share ideas in this territory. The consideration of the critical and creative adaptation of Shakespeare in America continues down to the present day in the performance as well as the read and scholarly traditions. So tomorrow night at 7 p.m., again, I refer you to the posters outside, at our final free public event, you would have the opportunity to consider how some of the present-day theater companies and educational institutions of Buffalo, Raices Theater, the Irish Classical, Shakespeare in Delaware Park, Ujima, and the youth of the Buffalo Academy of the Visual and Performing Arts, the Nichols School, and Peace of the City, Shakespeare Comes to 716, how these companies interpret Shakespeare in their repertory and curriculum. They will give brief performance demonstrations at the Ujima Company Theater at School 77 at 429 Plymouth Avenue on Buffalo's west side. Please come out again to join us there. This complex and wonderful program could not take place without the resources and collaboration of so many partners, chief among them the Folger Shakespeare Library itself, and the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library and UB Special Collections. We welcome those people who helped us put this together here in the audience. I see you. In addition, we would like to thank the Roycroft Campus, the UB Office of the Vice President for Research and Economic Development, the UB Arts Collaboratory, the UB Humanities Institute, the UB Center for the Arts, the UB Office of Advancement, the UB Departments of English and of Theater and Dance, and the UB James Agee Chair of American Culture for their generous human and material support. And just yesterday, we learned that the Folger Shakespeare Library itself, right in the heart of Washington, D.C., up on Capitol Hill, will reopen after its 3-year reconstruction closure with a yet broader public humanities mission on November 17th, 2023. And now, to welcome you further and to introduce Lauren, let me ask John Spears, the director of the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library, and Aviva Weinraub-Lajoie, UB's vice provost for libraries, to take the stage.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Barbara, the UB team, members of the public, our speaker, Lauren Belfer, and especially our visiting Folgers scholars. I'm very pleased to welcome you to the Downtown Central Library. This occasion has been coming and been in the works for quite some time, and I'm so glad that at last we can begin the convening here that I know is going to be enlightening and enjoyable for everyone. It'll probably be no surprise to you that the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library has been, as libraries across the entire country are, an anchor and a cultural center for this community. Since its beginnings in 1836 as a subscription library, it evolved into the Buffalo Public Library in 1897 and later into today's incarnation as the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library. This library provides its services and resources through 37 libraries located across Erie County, bookmobile services, a library by mail program, and extensive online opportunities. As you'll learn tomorrow through the workshops here, we're blessed with an absolutely incredible rare books collection, unmatched by any American public library of our size. I've worked in a lot of libraries, and I will say that when I came here and saw the rare book room, to use an official Library of Science phrase, I was just blown away. It was truly, truly amazing. So that came about as a result of Buffalo's Gilded Age affluence and influences, as you just heard. Mark Twain himself, briefly a Buffalo resident at the beginning of his writing career, was a friend of this library, and he later gifted us the original manuscript of Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, which we're proud to have on perpetual display on level 1 in the Mark Twain room. But there are so many more literary gems that we're honored to steward, which will be shared with you during your visit as well. Many thanks are due to Barbara Bono and the UB team for the massive local organizing of this workshop, partnering with library staff and a number of other key players. Thank you so much for coming to Buffalo, for coming to the Central Library, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your visit.
Thank you, John. And I will say when I first got a chance to tour your collections, I too was blown away. So good afternoon, everybody. I'm Aviva Weinraub-Lajoie, and I am delighted to be here with you today, along with my colleague, John Spears, to welcome and introduce novelist Lauren Belfer. She is the keynote speaker for this weekend's Folger Shakespeare Library Workshop, Gilding the Gilt, the Gilded Age, Craft Production and Construction of Cultural Capital. I will be honest, I was really worried about messing that up, so I'm glad I got it. Lauren grew up in Buffalo, and her debut novel, City of Light, takes place here, harkening back to a time when the city of Buffalo was at the forefront of innovation and progress. From the development of electricity to the stunning architecture of the 1901 Pan American Exposition. City of Light was a New York Times bestseller, a Library Journal Best Book, and a main selection of the Book of the Month Club. Since the success of City of Light in 1999, Lauren has gone on to publish more compelling novels based on historical events, vividly painting a picture of other places and times. A Fierce Radiance, her second novel, set in New York at the onset of World War II, was a Washington Post Best Novel of 2010 and an NPR Best Mystery of 2010. Her third novel, And After the Fire, received a 2016 National Jewish Book Award. Her most recent novel, Ashton Hall, was published in June 2022 and was recommended by the New York Times Book Review. The Jewish Book Council praised Ashton Hall as a, quote, splendid work of imagination, and hailed Lauren Belfer's writing as gorgeous and highly detailed. Interestingly, City of Light was also the featured book for the Loyal Book Clubs in the summer of 2020. I host this virtual book club for UB, and as we were all adjusting to live in a pandemic world, it was the perfect novel to transport us to another time. And we are so pleased when Lauren was able to join us via Zoom. Thank you again to join us to discuss her novel in more depth. So as Buffalo serves as a perfect backdrop for City of Light, our city is also the perfect backdrop for this weekend's series of events. And now please join me in welcoming Lauren Belfer to the stage.